online instructor, and she has been a great asset in helping transition all of the faculty to online through this COVID crisis that we're in. You also have in attendance here Natalie Russell and Allegra Davis, who I don't think it's sexist for me to say these are like right arms for me and left arms for me, like my arms. These are all three people I consider appendages in some way, shape, or form to help me be successful in the job that I do and be successful here. These people are great people, and one of the first things I always like to say in these seminars or webinars or everything is if you forget a lot of the information we have here, please remember these people's names, because if you just email these fine folks here, they will get you the help if they don't know it themselves. They will get you to the person who can most help you. So I just want to say welcome to the seminar today. And I'm Austin Haynes. I'm the instructional designer on the Connect campus. And so now I'm going to let Angela, if you're comfortable, kind of give them just the synopsis of what, just, hey, this is what it's about today, because you're a faculty member, and I want you to.
Absolutely. So there's always a lot of confusion over, when am I ready? When is my class ready to go? And what constitutes me having a good class on day one? So Austin and I are going to sort of walk through some of the thought processes that you should have in order to create a good class. And if you will hold your questions to the end, that would make it really easy for us to address them all at one point. So we're basically just going to go through the way that you should be designing your class. And then at the end, we have some really, really helpful links that will be available to you, checklist, and so on and so forth that you can use in the future. So without further ado, we're going to start by saying, you got this, you do have this, and you're going to grow from this.
And so thanks, Angela, because that's exactly what this is about, and I do want you to hear it from a faculty member's voice, not mine. I'm here to support you, and I'm here to help you take all the wonderful things that you do in a class, whether you're an online teacher or a face-to-face traditional instructor, and help you digitize those skills. And I want to kind of start with that thought, because we're going to bookend with this, believe it or not. Any chance I get to say this, I'm very excited about this. Allegra's very excited about this too. So is Natalie, and so is Angela. There's people coming in, sorry. And so we're going to get a new LMS here in a year. That's the word. It will be able to officially say that, I hope, by the end of this month. And if you haven't heard that, the drums along the Mohawk, that is out there. That's the message. So, in talking about that, what we mean by you got this is I work with a bunch of other institutions. I get to help other faculty in other colleges, and some of our faculty who work in other colleges as adjuncts. And in working in that capacity, I got to say, and this may sound like I'm just shining y'all on, but I'm not. The TCC faculty did a great job in transitioning to the COVID pedagogical crisis that we're in. And that's kudos to y'all. So y'all do have this. That being said, one of the things I do want to plant in your thought process is this. All the stuff that you learned doesn't have an expiration date on it. It's going to grow. And so I work in technology all the time, and that's my career path here in education. Is I'm an educational technologist. I can take a deep dive into all these tools and learn how to utilize them so I can share that with you. And yeah, Allegra's mentioning watch next week's board meeting to find out about the new LMS, and I didn't even know that, so I'm excited about that. But what I want to say to you is all of these skills are not going to go away when COVID goes away. And I don't mean that y'all are all going to stay online. Some of you may choose to do that. Some of your courses may gear towards that, because there may be some students who decide to stay online, and that may become part of your class load, and that's not to scare you. But what I do want to say is all these skills that you're going to learn, that you're learning now and you're developing now, all of those things are just going to enhance what you do in a face-to-face class. It is not making your job go away. You are not going to be recorded and then they're just going to play the videos back and all that stuff, because that's not the way this thing works. The way it works is if you're making new content, it's because, as with all information, the more information you get, and if you stay open-minded and learn more information, that information is going to evolve. and students are always going to engage with the most and be challenged by the instructor who has the most current, up-to-date, evolving information in their course. So when you make a video, don't think of it as the penultimate version of that video. Think of it like this. That's my current version. That's version 1.0, and pretty soon I might have version 1.2 and 1.5 and 2.0. And so those things are there. That being said, those are all the little things that you do. And so we broke this down kind of into this kind of a philosophy, and I'm just going to start by saying setting norms, and then I'm going to cast it over to Angela for a minute because she knows we kind of discussed this earlier about how to do this. So setting norms, and what do you do, Angela, when you set norms in your course?
So when we talk about setting norms, we're going to be talking about, well, let me just go back to here. You want the students to know what to expect. And if you think about any type of a class you were ever in, or even a meeting that you go to, it is always really nice to have an agenda so that you know what to expect, you know what's coming next, you can sort of budget your time. So when we say setting norms, we want the students to know what to expect, what they can expect from you, and what you expect from them.
Yes. So that being said, sorry, my dog is barking. So that being said, when you're setting norms, part of that is the first week you're kind of just have that welcome video and that message on your announcement page and everything else like that. And so that is the protocols, that's the tools, that's the actual content that you're developing there. The next thing after you set those norms is when the students give you feedback, like I watched your video, Dr. Thurman or Professor Thurman on, I gave her a doctor there, Professor Thurman on your welcome video and your processes, how you respond to them is going to start being the cultivating belonging part of that. And so Angela, as a faculty member, and also, by the way, Angela and I talked about this, what we'd love for you to do in the comments right now is, as we're talking about this, if in the comments you would post like a best practice that you do to kind of do these things with students, whether it's in a face-to-face class or a online class. We're all online now. It's kind of a share thing, because we also like to get information from you because you're doing stuff that is successful. So how do you, once the students have watched the welcome video or been in your welcome session, how do you cultivate belonging to them? Which sounds broad and general, but I want y'all to be specific in those faculty. Go ahead, Angela, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, so there are different ways to cultivate belonging, and basically what that means is that we want the students to feel as though they're in a community with one another and in a community with you. So there are several different ways that you can do that. One way that I have done that, and it's been very successful for me, is I use Flipgrid videos as welcome videos. So that way students are sort of breaking the ice the way they would if they were in a face-to-face class, and they're just giving a little bit of information about themselves and getting the same information in return. And of course, I make the exact same video, and I use that as just a, the proof that the student has attended. But you can use Flipgrid videos in a number of different ways. You can use them for discussion boards. You can use them for a lot of different things. And the nice thing about that, it does build community because people can attach a face with a name. So there are lots of different ways to do that. That's just one example that I have used. So yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, but sorry. But yeah, so I see y'all are doing in the comments exactly that. And that's exactly that. I mean, you may think it has to be some big spectacular thing. I can tell you from a digital perspective, posting a GIF, or Allegra and Angela use Bitmoji. If you're not familiar with Bitmoji, it's free, it's fun. You can attach it right to your text engine in your phone, and it makes you make a little cartoon character yourself. And one of my favorite ones was Allegra did dropping in to leave a message, and it was her in a parachute, for instance, doing that. I think, Natalie, do you use Bitmoji too? I don't want to leave you out if you do. If Natalie, if you'll post that in the comments, that would help you tremendously. Which leads us to the next thing. Whenever the students feel like they belong in the classroom, that gets tied right to your interactions with them. and I'm gonna cue Angela up here. But making your curriculum compelling, and Angela teaches economics, which, let's all face it, is very boring and nobody wants to go to that class.
Not true.
But Angela does help bring it to life by something she does called Monday Musing. So I'm teeing you up there.
Okay, absolutely. So I started doing this a couple years ago, and initially my Monday Musing was my online version of me bringing newspapers and magazines to my face-to-face classes, and we would go through the headlines and I would explain how what we were learning in economics tied directly to the current events. And of course, the point is that every decision that is made is based on economic theory. And yes, I can prove that to anyone who doesn't believe me. But how to do that in an online setting. So what I did was I started something called Monday Musings, and it's not always on Monday, but I will get something that is a current event, and I will go through it, walk through it, and explain how this ties into what we're currently learning. So it brings economics into the real world for my students. And as I've been doing this, I started to get requests from students to do specific things. And some of them were in my wheelhouse and some of them were not. Like one, they asked me if I could research and explain Bitcoin currency. And I really didn't know a lot about it, but I did research it. So that was good for me because I learned something, the students learned something, and I put that in my little library of videos. I've done things on how to start a 401k, what's the difference between a Roth IRA and a regular IRA. So those aren't typical economic things, but they are things that my students requested, and I produced those for them. So that's been a good way for me to bring economics into the real world. Then they know, why do I have to take this class? And the answer is because it relates to all of these things that are going on. So you can do that with whatever you teach, because whatever you teach is important in a day-to-day world. Like if you taught math, you could, go through the importance of percentages and making change and figuring out, how much money you need to make to satisfy your lifestyle. So there's a lot of different ways that you can bring the real world into the classroom and make your curriculum compelling.
Yes. And so just a comment, because I'm greedy this way. Sarah Edgel, I think I'm pronouncing that right. She's put one of hers up and she's using Bitmoji, but she also has Groot in there. So if you have something Marvel, if I was her student, I would key into that almost immediately, just real immediately, because that's my whole life's focus besides my wife, kids, and dogs. So yeah, going into that, I want to start the rest of this session by talking to you and precursoring it by saying these two words: synchronous and asynchronous. And as we're going through this, it's going to sound like I'm trying to sell you on asynchronous course development. And to a certain degree, I am. I do not want you to think I am trying to take away the live. I want you to embrace the live. But the asynchronous, the reason I mention that is that's one of those things you are going to carry from here if you go back to teaching traditional face-to-face courses, because the asynchronous is going to then support your face-to-face courses. Having that content online, even recording yourself in class when you're presenting, maybe you're setting up your phone or just recording your audio and posting that into your online course, even when you're teaching a face-to-face course, is a great way to get your students notes. If you make a recording of your voice, and for less than $10 on Amazon, you can go buy a lav mic, LAVMIC mic, which plugs right into your phone. You can record yourself just like you were at a lecture, like walking around with a remote microphone on. After you're done with class, you can take that audio recording, post it inside of your online class. And this is once the world is after COVID, post-COVID, and you post that in there. The average commute for most people in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is 45 minutes one way, okay? And if your audio is in their class and they could just open it up on their phone and listen to it in their car as they're driving, there comes a point, believe it or not, where you don't want to listen to the latest Beyonce or Travis Tritt. That's going to age me right there. The latest song on the radio, and if you're in a course, it might be really beneficial to do that. This is that idea of keeping it simple and engaging. If I'm in a course and I post a 45-minute lecture 2 times a week, that's almost 2 hours. I know it's not 2 hours, but it's almost 2 hours. It's an hour and a half. But if you walk for an hour and a half, you can lose a pound a month of weight. I'm not saying you need to lose weight, but it's a healthy practice. And if you tell your students, hey, I'm doing the lecture challenge this semester. I want to know if you listen to my lectures while you're walking, listening to them on your phone, how healthy you are by the end of the semester because of that. And it's just a fun way to get students to engage your content and think about it in a different way. So that being said, I'm going to turn you back to Angela, because audio content inside of classes might be a good thing to talk about when we're talking about podcasts and being very intentional in how you engage your students in an online environment. Sorry.
So thanks to Austin. And I'm also going to give a shout out to Allegra and Misty. They are the original podcasters at Connect. And they have a great podcast called Profess Hers, which you can follow. And so I wanted to do one that was economics in the real world, everyday economics. And Austin and I have done several of those tied into the chapters in that I'm teaching. So the content aligns with it, with what we're learning in the class, but we do this in a very conversational tone, and we talk about real world events. So we may talk about how economic decision might be who you date or who you marry. It might be where you go out to eat. It might be what kind of vacation you take. So all of those are economic decisions, and we go through those. And then all of those are posted as a link in my class under extra resources. And my students have been extremely receptive toward that. And another thing that I've done, and this ties in with the lectures that Austin was talking about, I have found that students prefer short segments, chunks of lectures rather than one. I was stunned to hear that they didn't want to hear me talk online for 60 minutes, but that was the truth. So what I did is I went in and I did my lecture notes in chunks, and nothing is longer than about 7 or 8 minutes. And some are shorter, like 4 or 5 minutes, and they're all labeled. So for instance, if one face-to-face was typically GDP, online, my guided lecture notes, that would be broken down into like 4 different sections, each one labeled. And that does a couple of things. One, when the students say, I don't get this, I don't understand the GDP, I can drop that link right in my response to them and say, hey, go watch this and see if this helps. And if not, we can talk about it further. And it always does help, because then they can watch it over and over and over. So those are a couple of different things that you can do with audio. Another is you can use audio in your announcements. So there's a lot of different apps that you can download or extensions on your computer, and you can just say the announcement. Hi, this is Professor Thurman. I just wanted to remind you that, exam 5 is due next Tuesday. If you have any questions, please let me know. Boom, you drop that in. And so that's another different way that you're engaging with your students. So they get the visual, they get the audio as well.
Yes.
Anything to say about that, Austin?
I think that's also giving a shout out to one of my favorite things in the world, universal design and learning. It is also ADA, meeting ADA requirements. Often it's a portion of that. Universal design and learning is actually kind of ADA on steroids. If you're building things with universal design in mind, it's open to multiple users in different ways. And so I always use this analogy. Imagine you're a single parent or 2 parents, because I'm a parent and I'm still married, and it gets challenging when your kids are home. Imagine it's 6 o'clock, you're taking a class, and 6 o'clock at night and you're making spaghetti. It would be great to be able to open up your computer and listen to something from your course. And Allegra does this, Natalie does this. They make their own content, which is that part where it says, try making your own digital content like videos or slide decks or things like that, to actually listen to the videos that are posted. So yes, I'm gonna do something right quick that this is kind of what I wanted to do. Normally I don't do this, but we had talked about questions. But the questions y'all are asking are right to where we are. So Carol Stanley asked, what is Flipgrid? Flipgrid is a free for educator software that you can just go to flipgrid.com and do educator setup. It's owned by Microsoft. It's free for educators. what it allows you to do is record like a video, and it reason it's called Flipgrid is you can record you can set up and say, I want you to record a 30-second greeting, and I want you to tell me, I'm going to use Marvel here, who's your favorite superhero and what superpower do you want? So I would go, I'm Austin Haynes. My favorite superhero is actually my favorite superhero is the Thing from the Fantastic Four. But if I had a superpower, I'd want Franklin Richards from the Fantastic Four because he's like a god. So I'm going to ask you, Angela, then to do yours. And then Angela can attach right to my video and go, Austin, I don't even know who Franklin Richards is. I'm going to say Supergirl because I don't follow comic books and I'm not a nerd. And then Angela will pass it to somebody else, or just another student will link on. And so it's Flipgrid. You can just go to flipgrid.com and you can establish that there. And then one of the questions down there was, any suggestions on how to get students to actually listen to the videos that are posted? Talk about them. Post in your announcements every week that you have those there, that they're available. The other thing I would say that, and I'm going to give a shout out to Allegra here because it just sounds like I'm all up in her grill and Natalie's. They record. Natalie is the queen of jokes. She loves to make all kinds of jokes in her courses. She's really one of those people that you really like because she tells a lot of, I think they're called dad jokes now, that are real fun and they're punny and all that stuff, and they use them that way. Allegra is queen of, Allegra will go in, type out what is the equivalent of a book in her course, no offense, Allegra, and then she does an audio recording of it using an audio tool, and she just drops in a little audio file so the student can hear in Allegra's voice what is typed below. And that goes to that thing I was saying where I'm sitting there making spaghetti and I just want to kind of get what the messages are that week. Allegra is real queen on that. And that is a great way to get them to listen to the stuff. It is, as you develop your course, imagine if you're constantly adding stuff to it, don't strip that stuff away. There's data behind anything you put in your course. And so when we say keep it simple and engaging, there's a back part of this I want to mention to you, which is there's data behind every click that your students do in your course. And so if they click on your videos, you can see when they clicked on your video, how much of it they listened to it, if they listened to the whole thing, if they quit listening halfway through, how many students clicked on it and watched it. And that data will help you. And one of the, spoiler alert here, students don't listen to videos past 5 minutes. Doesn't mean you can't have more than 5 minutes a week in your video content. It does mean that the best way to do it is break it up. If you can find a natural breaking point in your videos, do that. And that's the way to get them to engage with your digital content, whether it's video or audio. Audio, they're a little bit more prone to listen to because they can walk around and do things you're not focusing on. They can also speed audio up, and they can speed video up too. And they do speed audio up. Students generally will speed up audio, and you'll get them to listen to something that takes 5 minutes in 3 minutes, 30 seconds, which gets them to be able to listen to your content. You sound a little bit more like the chipmunks, but that's a good thing too. Clarity, writing out your scripts before you go in and start speaking extemporaneously, I promise you is the best thing you can do for yourself and your students, because when you write those scripts out, you can post them right into your content also as a Word document, and the students can download them, which also is an ADA, UDL, Universal Design and Learning standard, meaning you have the transcript in there for students. And student, like I was mentioning, students who were hoping for face-to-face are more likely to watch videos. Yes, very true. And if you send your videos to me, I can post them to our district's YouTube page, which automatically closed caption them, which also allows the students with ADA concerns to do that. And so I see Hannah Watara, and I got your name right, Hannah Watara in here, and Hannah sends me videos a couple of times a day, and I'm pretty good. I've missed a couple of times, but I'm pretty good about getting those back to her. And Hannah's teaching a synchronous course, and she records herself, and then we post the videos back there so that her students can go back and have a recursive look at those videos, but also for students who may have missed that session or something like that. And Hannah is really good. Her videos generally are about an hour, which kind of breaks that thing I'm saying, but it's her synchronous session that she's recording. And so she has that content there. When you're making new content, be your authentic self. That's what we're doing here today with the way that I sound like I'm jokey and stuff like that. These are all jokes, by the way, folks. This is how I see life. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. And those two are together. for this reason. And then the second statement is that I go back to another thing Allegra did one time, and Allegra teaches writing, creative writing, English, and all that stuff. So she'd be good with the word stuff. And one time she typed a message to her students and she put, humans makes mistakes. I'm remembering that right, I think. Humans makes mistakes, and she published it and she left it in there, and she acknowledged, even though she could have really quickly went back in and changed that, she acknowledged that she made a mistake in the way that she had written that. And it's just another way to let her personality shine through, because she does see the ridiculousness of herself just like we all do, and has fun with that. But she also lets the students see that a mistake is not going to be punished by doing that. And so, and I see we're at 28 minutes. Do you want to go to the next slide? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, and just to follow up on, don't be afraid to make mistakes and let your personality shine through. Don't think that your videos and your audio lecture notes need to be perfect, because, you know, like everyone's a different ringtone, and several times I would be almost to the end and it would ring in on my phone, and it would be like a dock or a train or something. And at first I was like, oh gosh, I've got to start all over again. And then I would just go, oh gosh, that's one of my kids, sorry. And I'd keep going. And it was funny because my students would comment back and they'd go, that's so funny, like that's my ringtone, or my mom makes me do that too, or whatever. So, you know, it is what it is, and it makes your personality shine through. And then, like Austin said, if you do make a mistake, if you do something wrong, admit it. Just say, hey, you guys, I'm really sorry that it took me so long to grade this, or I'm really sorry that I put this question and you haven't gotten there yet. You know, that was a mistake on my part, and I'm going to make it right. So don't be afraid to do that. So now we're moving on to your space. So you want to make your space online or face-to-face uniform, clean, and comfortable. So Austin, I'll let you talk about navigating virtual spaces.
Okay. The reason this is important, I want to plant this thought in your head, is your average student is taking between 4 and 5 classes, full-time student, excuse me, is taking between 4 and 5 classes. It's why navigation is up there in the upper left-hand corner, and we try to keep that universal, because we don't want students to log into 5 different classes, have 5 different ways of navigating a class. You want uniformity across the college, because it can be frustrating for students. This is one of the big things we do here feedback on, if people are moving things around. So if your announcements are down in the body of something or buried in a folder, like my weekly updates or something like that, it's more difficult for them to go. And that goes into be consistent in how you relay critical information. Your announcements each week, if they're up there in that upper left-hand corner navigation, they know where to click to get updates. And this goes back to face-to-face again, for instance. If you're a teacher that's teaching a 6 o'clock class on the South Campus, which is right over there in the middle of where everything gets crazy, I'm sure, with traffic because of the highways, and we're back to normal, we're post-COVID, and we're back to traffic jams and all the honking horns and all that stuff. If you're teaching a 6 o'clock class, sometimes your students are going to be late, you know, because of traffic. There's going to be a traffic accident or something like that, or you're going to be late. So if you tell them at the beginning, making an announcement saying, if I'm going to be running late, I want to let you know, and I will post in the upper left-hand navigation that I'm going to be 10 minutes late. I'm running 10 minutes late because of traffic. They'll know where to look, and they'll know what to expect if they walk up and they pull on that door and you're not there like you normally are. And they didn't get any information. The first thing students will do is run to their email and look and see if you sent out an email. But if they know to go there and you're using that tool consistently, they will know where that information is. And then I'm going to turn that over to you, Angela, because I'm sure you have something to say about that. Because Angela does not accept late grades.
I don't. He's very serious about that. But that's all about setting the norms and you know, setting expectations. So I'm not that hardcore. I mean, if they let me know ahead of time, then we'll work something out. But I do believe in making the class super consistent and easy to navigate. So when I send an announcement, I always check, yes, send this out as an email, because boom, now they're seeing that in 2 different places. I always put all of my information in announcements. So that way it's a CYA in that you can go back and they say, oh, you never told me that that was required. Oh, yes, I did. Look, I did it here and I sent it out. So be very consistent in that and communicate more often than you think is necessary. I know a lot of people say to me, why do you send out so many announcements? These are college kids. This isn't high school. They should know, or it's in the syllabus. Resist that urge to say it's in the syllabus when you get that email. I know that's what you want to say because that's what I want to say. Resist that and, send out a reminder. It takes you 2 seconds and it is helpful for the students. So we're trying to help the students and if sending an extra reminder helps them to be more productive and more successful in my class, then I'm going to do that. And also when you're naming things, give the names that indicate exactly what it is. So resist the urge to use acronyms or words that are unique to whatever you teach. Make it easy. Remember the KISS, keep it simple, stupid. That's what that means. So if it's required quizzes, label it required quizzes. If it's exams, label it exams. So that way also when you're giving your announcements, you can refer back to that. So I have a welcome to my class video. I have a welcome to my class sort of letter, and I have a welcome to my class announcement. So there is no way that they can miss all of the important information that I'm relaying to them. So make sure that your class is the same way, that there is no way that whatever your message is, that your students are not getting that.
Yes.
Yep.
Create spaces like chat rooms for group discussions or side conversations. That's a great way to utilize that tool in another way to create a classroom environment. You want to, of course, establish etiquette rules, and that's part of their district signing up for online courses and just being a good digital citizen. But you do want to establish those two, and that's another way to engage with your students. With Angela's Monday Musings, she posts those consistently, and they're expecting them on Monday. But you could very easily set up and I'm going to go to Hannah because Hannah teaches ESOL, but I'm going to once again reveal my age here. When I was taking a long time ago in one of the first versions of Blackboard, I took a Spanish course, and there was Destinos they still use Destinos. Anyways, Destinos was a thing, and they used Destinos, which was kind of like a Spanish soap opera, and it was really cool. I never found out if they got that horse out of that ditch. But if on a weekly basis, they would post in the latest episode of Destinos, and we would all talk about it. Like, I think that meant she loved him, but then she slapped him, and I'm not sure, so I'm going to have to study up on that exchange that they had there. But I also want to address, Hannah asked, can you give directions on how to get that video watcher data in Blackboard? You don't get it in Blackboard because I'm not posting it in Blackboard. You actually get it through YouTube right now. And Hannah, all you have to do is reach out to me, and if you posted content on your own YouTube channel and you don't know how to do that, if you just reach out to me, I'll be glad to go into a team session with you and show you. In your case, Hannah, because we posted that stuff together, you can actually just reach out to me and we can go through it together and I can open up that session. But that also gives me a chance to sell this to you. Accompanying the new learning management system is going to be a video platforming network, which you will be able to do that in a very detailed way because each student's ID will be active whenever they sign in and watch a video. So you'll be able to see that Bill Smith in your class watched the video at 6 o'clock at night, and he watched it for 7 minutes, and it was a 11-minute video, and he rewinded back to here, and then he came back on Saturday and watched the whole thing or whatever. It's very specific in that. The data that I get from YouTube is not as specific, but it does help you understand some really good practices to build in building video content for your course. And yes, James McCowan, all of this will be easier for students and faculty using Canvas, and that's exactly segues to what I said. So, James, I owe you a digital Coke. Go ahead and go to the next slide, Angela. I'm sorry, because the next one is, oh, you're already there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Foster belonging or set expectations.
This is the next slide. We've talked about most of this, but this third point is asking students to give feedback on expectations. And I'm going to give you an example. And this points out a lot of things that we're talking about today: making mistakes, learning from your mistakes, asking students to give feedback. So this semester, I had a number of students. I always offer to meet with them one-on-one, but they said, would really like to have a group tutoring session. Okay, fine. So I set them up on Teams, and I set it up for 2 different times, a daytime and a nighttime. And for the first couple of times we met, I probably got, like, I don't know, 10, maybe a dozen students. And then it started dwindling off, no shock. And then the last time I did it, I didn't get anybody. And so I posted an emoji of myself sitting like alone in a corner, and it said lonely. And I said, I sat there and no one came, which tells me that this isn't useful for you guys anymore. So, let me know what you want. And then they did come back and they were like, yeah, that it's actually, we really don't like that. We like just talking to you one-on-one or sending you screenshots or whatever. So that whole experience, I solicited their feedback. I used their feedback. We did it. It didn't work, admitted that there was an error, and changed it to a way that is more useful and palatable to my students. So they saw, though, that I was willing to meet them halfway or more than halfway in order to help them be successful. So when you do this, it just, they know that you're all in with them. And
will you advance to the next slide, Angela? Because you're going into that content too, and that's exactly. And please continue what you're saying right there.
Yeah, no, I mean, but it does make a sense of like this says, it's a sense of community. They know that I care about them. I'm reaching out to them, and it does feed into this. So my class, we don't really have group work, but we do have discussion boards, and then we have separate discussion boards that are peer-to-peer. So I do try to participate in all of these things, because if they see me doing it, then they're more likely to do it. So some of my Monday musings recently, we've been talking a lot about COVID. Of course, we talked a lot about the elections. So I'll say, this is, what do you think about this this exercise? And then they will give me their feedback. So all of those things do work to make your class more of a community. And no, you're not going to get 100% buy-in on this. I mean, to be honest, you're not even going to get 50% buy-in on it, but you will get some students that will buy in on, that's all you can do.
Yes. And that, sorry, I'm making, I want to see if that autocorrects things if I say that. Because you're using that file from PowerPoint, right? I want to see if that saves. Because that's a horrible, sorry about that. That's horrible there at the end where it says, this keeps the humans behind the video screens and the text connected is what I wanted. Connected.
You know what? Let's admit that we made an error there.
Yeah, I was playing. That's just actually me thinking aloud. Sorry, which is horrible. But make time for individual work, small group work, and relationship building activities. These relationship building activities, I'm going to go back to this again. We talked about them at the beginning. Now we're talking about them in the close to the middle of our presentation. It's further than the middle, so don't leave yet. Build that into your class, because just like anything, I used to teach public school, and kids would come in for an hour, and I taught art, so they all wanted to be in my class. So I had kids in there from sometimes 3 or 4 hours a day, and it was great. And that was, that thing that I just loved as a teacher, was being able to see those kids and interact with those kids. But sometimes I would have an art 1 class, and it'd be a 4th period class, for instance. And I knew at that point that they had been through 3 hours of school, lunch was about to happen, and all that stuff. And these were high schoolers. And so some days I'd just walk in and I could tell the vibe of the campus was down, or something was going on, or we lost a football game because our football team was terrible, or something like that. And that was important to them. And so whatever it was, if I saw like it dragging, I literally would go, hey, I need y'all to do something with me. We're going to go for a walk. And it was literally 1 mile. I worked at Northwest ISD at Northwest High School. So it's literally 1 mile around the entire campus, because it's a big building. And so we would just go out the door, because we had a door right in my classroom, and I would walk out that door and I'd go, I want to show y'all something. And then we'd just keep walking, and they'd be, what are we going to look at? And I'd go, I want to show you something. And like one time we were walking and I pointed up in the air and I said, look at those dead birds. And it took them a couple of minutes to go, what the heck is he talking about? Because our dead birds don't fly. But I just kept walking, and I was listening to him behind me going, what is he talking about? Is he high or something like that? And so I let them pontificate for a minute, and then I would just turn around and go, hey, we're just taking a walk, because I just know that if I was sitting all day long in classes. Every once in a while, I just like to take a walk. And so every once in a while, they would come in as a class, and they had a procedure to come into class, and you'd see some of my key kids, not my kids who are always looking for a way to get out of work, but some of my key kids, the ones I could constantly count on to be at the top of their game when they came to my class. They would walk in and they'd go, "Hey, Mr. James, why don't we take a walk today?" And on that 1 mile walk around the campus with 28 to 35 kids, that's 30 minutes. You know, it really is, because I'm pointing at stuff and talking about color and doing what an art person should be doing. But more importantly, I was doing what a human should be doing sometimes, which is just remembering that we're all in this together, and that sometimes I don't want to sit and listen to me talk. I mean, I get tired of me talking sometimes, and I do. And I'm not saying that about y'all, so please don't say that take that as a slam. But what I am saying to you is, remember the humans behind it on both sides, you and them. Remember sometimes that it's okay for you to come in and go, "Hey, today we're gonna do something a little different. I saw this movie last night, or I did this." And so this brings me to foster belonging. One of my favorite stories is, once again, being a consultant, I get to work with some really interesting people. And one of the professors I really thought was funny was, for his online personality, he initially used food, but then he got much more specific, and he used sandwiches. And when he would post any images representing himself in there, he would post a sandwich, and he would say, "Can you figure out my mood based on the sandwich?" And sometimes it'd be really funny sandwich, like, hot Diablo sandwich from some restaurant that he went to or something like that. And he would list the ingredients in it, and it would be some fiery statement about, "Make sure you get your homework in on time." But then other times he'd go, "Hey, this is something I just need y'all to get done in class," and it would be peanut butter and jelly. And so it'd be just this rudimentary sandwich and stuff like that. And so it was a way of having a sense with them. And then he would tell the students to pick a avatar for themselves. And then he'd go, "But I already called sandwiches, so you can't use that," which I liked. I thought that was genius. And I don't know whether that was his initial concept or if that came to him just because everybody started doing sandwiches. But he said, "I called sandwiches." And so they then picked an avatar to represent themselves in the class. And he said, "Use your avatars this Wednesday to represent your current mood. What's going on with you as far as," and he was specific about it, "where you feel you are in the class." And so, one of my favorites he said is a kid sent him a picture of mouse traps, a couple of thousand mouse traps going off, just a bunch of exponential growth of mouse traps going off. And he goes, "Whoa, I felt like that before." And it just helped them soften the conversation about where they all felt they were. And then he used that data to build an assignment with his students to get them to react something. And by the way, he taught us science. So kudos to him, because, no offense to Natalie, those science people, not bastions of excitement. You want to go to the next slide? I'm just kidding. Natalie is absolutely a lovely person, and all our science people are awesome. I'm just trying to make sure y'all are right. Awake, excuse me.
There you go. So now we want to talk about the fact that you do want to be present. We want instructor presence, but you don't want to be intrusive. So you're going to be giving your students space to work, but they do need support. So this is, again, when we go back to norms, you want to set either online office hours so students know when they can reach you, or have another way. Like for me, I end every single announcement with questions, concerns, email me. So they know that they can email me, and it's listed several different places in my course that they can expect a reply from me within 24 hours, 48 hours on the weekend. So they have that expectation. The other thing, and this is something that I think that everyone can benefit from. I've only started doing this for the last couple of semesters, but it's been very well received. We always go and look at the students that are not doing well, and we send them the emails and "Hey, I noticed that you haven't been checking in, or you haven't been doing these assignments," and blah, 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 blah. So what I started doing is I send out 3 announcements after every major assignment. I send out the one for the people that didn't do anything. "Hey, noticed you didn't do anything. What's up?" Was for those who failed, offering extra, encouragement and "Can I help in any way?" But the third one is for everyone who did. And so everyone in my class that gets an 80 or above, I send them out an email that says, "I'm so proud of you. You're working hard. I noticed, and I think you're awesome. Keep it up. If there's anything I can do, let me know." And I get so much response from that email. People that go, no one's ever sent me an email telling me that. Thank you so much. I do work hard. I really appreciate that you notice. Wow, this is the first email I've ever gotten, because the A students don't get that positive reinforcement, because we look at them and go, you're doing a great job. I don't need to talk to you. But that's just a suggestion that's worked really well for me. And then that way you're basically touching every student multiple times in a semester.
Exactly. So I'm going to do a tools thing with you here really quick. I'm going to throw this out there if you want to do this. And I will say I've gotten really good feedback from the faculty who have engaged this. If you are a person who really does want to set up online office hours, Microsoft has a tool that we can embed inside your course called Microsoft Bookings. You can actually set this tool up, and students can actually book a session with you, and you get to choose when those sessions are available. So like if you want to be available on Monday from 11 to 11:35 and you want to create 6-minute sessions for them to book, they can book. And then if they decide not to book, they can unbook. If they book and then they go, oh, I have to go wash my cat, then they can unbook. And then that responsibility is on them. But when students are looking for you, it gives you a way to do that. It creates a spreadsheet automatically of your interactions with students. It documents all of that. I'm going to give a shout out to Grant Griffin, who teaches over on the Northeast campus. He asked me about this, and I investigated this tool, and he and I did this together. He loved it. It really solved a problem for him. And so it gave him his ability to set those online office hours. He teaches mathematics, college algebra, and yes, integrated with Teams, Microsoft Bookings. Yes, ma'am. And if you just look it up, and you'll see it. And because you have a Microsoft account here in the district, you have bookings in there. And so you can set those hours up. And then Bethany, I'm going to scan back up because it moved down past you. Bethany said, I'm glad you, and Bethany, I hope I got your name. I said that right, because that's a beautiful spelling of that name. If I said that right, if I massacred it, I apologize. But Bethany says, I'm glad you said that because my students didn't like Flipgrid. That's the other part of this. That's data gathering there. I like whenever something doesn't work and you look at that and go, hey, that ain't for me. That's not for me, because it's not. And if everybody was doing the same Flipgrid thing in their class, and the students would just go, oh, right, cry mini. It's that Flipgrid thing again. I want there to be diversity in there. I want it to be something different that you do. And Angela brought Flipgrid to me, and I was not aware of it at all. And I try and stay up on that stuff. And when I saw it at first, I was like, oh, it's going to be another one of those things where they get a 30-day account and then it's going to be. No, it wasn't. It's free. So I really like that part of it, and that you can do that. But I also like that you are able to say, hey, that didn't work with my students, because that means you tried something different. It didn't work, and you are taking that feedback from your students. Mm-hmm. So kudos to you, Miss Morgan, about that. And then plan for an activity. This is another tools thing. Research shows that students retain more knowledge when they're engaged with materials in multiple ways. That's another callback to universal design and learning. I just want to reemphasize here, when you build something, if it doesn't work, don't throw it away, don't abandon it, hide it in your course, unpublish it, hold on to it, because you may want to revisit that later on. And it may be something that you decide to use in a different way in your course. And so those failures, and thank you for that, Bethany, because you're segueing me right into this beautifully. Work to keep learners from becoming passive observers by finding ways to build in polls, break for brainstorms, or drop guided questions into instruction. Same thing, Microsoft Forms. You can do surveys with your students. 3-question survey, not a graded quiz, but a 3-question survey gives you feedback on foundational concepts you may be introducing early on in your course. Like, I'm going to do a shout out to biology again, my favorite one. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. If you survey them on that and they go, mitochondria is where salt and sugar comes in, you're going to go, man, I am not teaching that successfully because 60% of the students did not get that correct. You'll be able to gauge your own teaching there. And then I'm going to add fun things from time to time, including personal emojis and other things to you, Angela, because I know you want to continue that. Or you may want to talk about the other stuff, sorry.
Yeah, no. I mean, and we've already really touched on these things, and I think a lot of instructors do this. But the emojis, or the audio files into your messages. I often will present my announcements in the form of a haiku or some other poem, just anything to break it up so that they're getting different things and it makes them read it. So if you send out the exact same thing and every message looks exactly like the message before, I mean, that is a little monotonous, and we all get a ton of emails that, I don't know if you're like me, but I hit that trash button a lot. So if you have something there that makes them look at it, and it can be an emoji, or it can be that they see that they're going to click it and you're going to say something and it's only a minute long, likely to engage in that. So be aware of that.
Yes. And then Carol Stanley says, I have a Zoom room every day during class time for questions. I think that's awesome. I also want to say, I don't think she's in here. Is Christina in here? Dr. Sullivan, our dean on our campus last night, she mentioned that she did digital escape rooms with her students. I think they were Harry Potter themed and stuff like that. So that may be something you want to look at as one of these activities, because it sounds like it was kind of fun. She said her students solved it really fast and it was discouraging to her. It took them like 20 minutes, I think she said. But yes, Nearpod is an interactive presentation. I will say, Kimberly, I don't know if we have a Nearpod account, but Nearpod is another way to kind of do those presentations and things like that. But Nearpod is a great tool. And then I'm gonna let you talk about this, Angela.
Okay, this is a very, very cool thing, the Connect Faculty Guide. This was built by one of our assistant deans, Brian Cervantes, using Articulate Rise. And it is a quick reference guide. This is really, really amazing. So shout out to Dr. Cervantes, because this is very cool. And he did this whole thing, and you guys will all have access to this. So what you do is you will just click on it, and then here we've got this faculty guide, and you see that there's all of this information that is in here. So maybe you don't know what is, maybe you go, you know what, I don't really understand the ICR. What is that all about? Well, you click on that, and it's going to tell what is an ICR. What are the guidelines for an ICR? You can click on syllabus. Define your rules, clarify what academic dishonesty looks like. So this is a really, really good thing that you guys will all have access to. And look at this, semester start checklist. Have you done all these things? So you can go in here, you can go, okay, yep, I posted my ICR. Yep, I'm using my course from last semester. Oh, I've got.
Click those boxes, Angela, and make a check-in and watch. And that way you can have a running digital checklist of what you've done.
Right,
So
and
so
maybe I want to see if there's a peer developed course, so I'm not going to check that. And then I did this. Oh, I haven't done that yet. Oh, and I did that. So on and so forth. So you are able to go down here, and once you've done all of this, you should be good to go. And I do want to remind everybody about this last one. This is going to be going away once we go over to Canvas, but do be aware that you are required to take attendance in WebAdvisor, even if you take attendance on another platform. The WebAdvisor attendance is mandatory. So.
And then the last slide is.
You all have, let me go back to my last slide. All right.
The last slide is a continuation kind of this, and why I said that this is going to bookend this. We are also building an interactive training manual, but also a pedagogical practice and suggestion pool that's going to be called, I think it was Katie who came up with this, Canvas Academy Training. It's going to introduce you to all the tools inside Canvas. It's going to have all of the same kind of features in here, and it's going to give you instructions on how to use the tools. But we're also using what y'all are putting in here as suggestions. We're going to include those best practices in here so that they know what other faculty members are doing. Yes, there is a function to create an attendance column in Canvas, yes. And that's part of the Canvas stuff that we're creating here. And so when faculty are talking about setting up their gradebook, for instance, points are weighted, there will be a section focused on points, and there'll be a section focused on weighted, and will be a section talking about why you don't want to merge those two things together, because it can create all kinds of havoc in your course. And so we're talking about those ideas in here, but we're also going to include practical boots on the ground suggestions of things that y'all mention in these kind of sessions. And so we're gathering data from them so that y'all, what you're doing in your courses can be relayed to other faculty members, and they can go, oh, that's really cool that they're doing that. I want to do that too. So that being said, we have 3 minutes left for questions. I hope I didn't run all over that. And if y'all have questions, I'm happy to stay after and answer questions. I hope I've been of some help. I know Angela has. And please let me know if we can do anything for you. And y'all just start hollering out.
Okay, Natalie asks if Canvas will have attendance. Allegra, are you still around? Or Austin, you'll know the answer to this.
Yeah, and yes, it does. Canvas does have attendance inside of it. Is Angela gone?
No, I'm here. I'm here. I see that. And James.
Yes.
Yeah, and James answered that as well.
Yeah, and so right there, James is mentioning that I use the attendance function in Canvas with points as an incentive for students to be in class and on time. And so I just want to say, those of you that are in Canvas right now, just so you know, I always use this analogy. You're walking around rubbing 2 sticks together. When you get Canvas, it's like you're going to have a Bic lighter. It's just a new LMS. Any new LMS is going to be, I'm going to use air quotes here, even though I'm not on camera, better, because it's just going to have updated user experience to it. But I will say there's features inside there that I'm very excited for y'all, like practical features, like if you did misspell a word in your course and it's something like mitochondria, which is a very important word, if you go in and correct that spelling in one of your sections, it will automatically update all of your other sections. So you don't have to go to each one and go, mitochondria, I fixed it in section in my 3rd period, mitochondria, I fixed it in my 5th period. You get to do it in one time and fix it over. That being said, that's my tasty tidbit for the end there, and then I'll let y'all ask questions or fill out the form. And once again, I really want you to know this. I really always appreciate any time you are willing to give me. I hope that you found value in this, and we are, of course, here to help you, and it's always our goal to help you. And so please do not hesitate to reach out and tip your waiters, because they worked really hard during this.
Thank you, Austin and Angie. That was awesome. And the attendance link is in the chat if you want to complete that, if you would like to get credit for your attendance in the Learn Center. And if you did not register through the Learn Center, you can yourself go in and mark that you attended manually.
Thanks, y'all.
All right. Thanks,
and yes,
everybody.
and so does Canvas Studio, the video platforming network that we're having. There's some really cool interactive features in there for faculty and students and stuff. So like your speech courses, for your speech teachers who may be in here, your students will be able to use the video platforming engine that will be embedded inside of Canvas to upload their speech videos to, or to record their speech videos directly to. So
yeah. And if you guys have any questions on anything that's been presented, you can always send either Austin or myself an email, and we're happy to help you. I've got a video on how to set up Flipgrid if you want to do that. And it's also in the new LE training. I encourage you guys to sign up for that as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank y'all for teaching. That makes the world a better place to live in, and I got to live in this world, and I'm always grateful whenever I encounter a student who's been taught by a good teacher. So thank y'all for all y'all do. Really, I appreciate it.
Yay.
And y'all good. And please don't hesitate to ask questions and send emails to me, austin.haynes@tccd.edu, or send out to Natalie or Allegra or Angela or anybody, and we'll get you there. So thank you very much. Y'all take care. Be safe.
Thanks. Bye-bye.